Welcome, everybody, to an episode of Tabletop Express, where we are excited to talk to you a little bit about our favorite stocking stuffers. You all know me as Chris Barrows. I'm at @CBarrows on Twitter. I'm joined today by Anthony Batista. Anthony, thanks for coming on with me today.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for inviting me. I'm very excited.
Yeah, so Anthony has been sharing, by the way, some great content, board game content over at dad_boards on Instagram. So I want to highly encourage you to go check it out. Some really great photography and board game reviews going on all at once. So I would highly recommend you go check that out. And with that said, let's dive right into this. Anthony, you and I were actually in the store the other day. We happened to come across each other at our favorite store, our favorite friendly local game store, Time War Comics, and
Comics and games.
Comics and games. That is true. Time War Comics.
Integral to the conversation. Yeah. Need to know there's games there.
But we look. You're in the store. They've got a huge small games section, and that's really what we're talking about today. We're talking about stocking stuffers, but we're talking about small games. I got to ask, what did the stocking stuffer mean to you as a kid? Because I know what the stocking stuffers I got as a kid were. I wonder what it was like for you.
I kind of feel like there was probably a lot of candy in the stocking. I don't have like a vivid memory of what it was, but it was certainly second tier to the under the tree presents. I mean, let's be honest, it's just not the same thing, right? But
no, it's not. But
you can certainly change that.
Yeah, and that's I think that's why we're here. We want to change that, right? I remember, I think it was a lot of I describe it as edibles and throwaways. That's a nice way to describe it. But today we're talking about board games that can go in these stockings, and this is a different world we're talking about. Obviously, we've got to focus here with Tabletop Express on getting folks to the modern board game table and really learning some new games and having some fun with their families. So let's just kick this off. This list, we should clarify, is not like a best of or anything like that. This is just 5 recommendations from each of us on games we think you might want to consider. And ultimately, you should be able to find somewhere. So
yeah, for sure.
Check your local stores. They'll have these. But Anthony, why don't we start with you? What's on your list to kick us off?
Well, I guess I'm going to kick off because of what you said, that we were in the store together the other day, and it was being in Time Warp that I guess kind of had a lingering thing when I was making the list, because my first pick is Flux, which is a card game. There are a ridiculous amount of versions of this game. BGG has listed over 30, I think. I kind of stopped counting. And Time Warp has a whole lot. They have maybe like 15 or 20, I think. Again, which I found quite awesome. I personally have Zombie Flux, just because I like the silly zombie theme. But I mean, there is Wizard of Oz, there's Marvel, there's Pirates, there's math, it's everything. And, it's a really simple game. In fact, the rule book is so small. All you really do is take a card and play a card. And that's it. You keep some cards in front of you that are things that you want to keep to do like cool stuff, to win. And the goal is always changing. So like, for example, this card right here, if you happen to have the gas can and the sandwich in front of you in this game, you would win. But someone can change that goal at the drop of a hat on their turn. That's why it's called Flux. It's always changing. The goal is always changing to win, and the rules are always changing based on the cards you play. So if you have like someone that likes a topic like zombies or Marvel or whatnot, you can almost guarantee to find a Flux version of that thing.
The Marvel version, actually, because I own it, it's the one we play the most. We have Star Flux and Marvel Flux.
Okay.
Marvel Flux has an I Am Groot card. And I kid you not, if you get this card, the literal only impact of it, outside of you can win with it, which you can. But the cards determines that you have to only say I Am Groot. You can say nothing else. So every theme really lands. I'd love to see. I haven't played them all, obviously, but you can also get the standard version. And the standard version actually works with not just the standard version, but you can get dice that add even more variability to the game. So it's got a lot you can do. In
Yeah,
terms
as
of,
if you needed more chaos, you could add dice. I don't really see the point of that, but I'm sure somebody likes it. But yeah,
or
this game is crazy. It could be over in like 5 minutes, or it could last like a half hour. It's so random.
yeah, we're not talking. Let's be clear, we're not talking like War where it's going to go
Mm-mm.
3 hours. So don't worry
No, no,
about
no,
that.
no.
I will just go along the Marvel theme real quick here. For me, and I actually picked this up from Time Warp not that long ago because I had a gift card, and I got a little bit of a game that I actually owned previously. So this is interesting. This is a reintroduction of the game. This is a love letter game, but it's Infinity Gauntlet. And
Mm-hmm.
what's fascinating to me, again, it fits the theme of Marvel, but the card game is really simple. You're talking this is the pack. This you carry this anywhere. I could literally take these cards out. And the only ones, honestly, this is sleeved even in here, but it's pretty clear. You've got cards that have certain directives. It's hard to see for the clarity for the actual sleeve. Most people I wouldn't have this sleeved. It's Marvel, so I do. But it's you versus Thanos. I mean, it's that straightforward. This is a variation of a game called Love Letter. And Love Letter is a popular one. I should note. But this one is one easy to play with a group. It's very easy to teach, which I think is a big piece of this, which is you want to be able to get it to the table. Potentially you break Love Letter out and you play it at Christmas dinner. You're playing it that evening. You're playing it as you celebrate. And this is a game that, hey, if you're not seeing a lot of people this year, this is a game you can carry with you to any place because, look, let's look to the future and the good times to come. But you got the theme. You are trying to stop Thanos from getting all the gauntlets. It's a reintroduction of the Love Letter theme, but I actually highly recommend you go look up Love Letter as a whole because there's a lot of Love Letter variants out there.
Well, you couldn't have set me up for a bigger softball there, Chris. I really appreciate that because everything that you just said about Love Letter, I completely agree with. In fact, my next pick is a version of Love Letter. Now, I happen to own 3 versions. I have the original version, or I don't know if it's the original, but the regular theme with like the royalty and whatnot. The one on my list I put though, I'm switching to DC, is Batman Love Letter. Now, this has been out for a while before the Marvel one came out. If it was now and I had a choice between the two, I probably would have bought the Marvel one. But this was cool to have. The kids that I used to have in board game club really liked this game. And everything you said, do not feel bad about sleeving your cards. I do not sleeve games very often, but I do sleeve Love Letter because there's only like 18 cards. That's the beauty of this game. It's really small. And you're shuffling them a lot. So the sleeves are kind of a nice touch. The only really difference in this one, besides obviously the characters, are Batman. If you do correctly guess someone's card, you get one of these bat signal tokens, which gives you extra points. But you can't get that if you guess Robin, which makes sense thematically, which is a nice touch.
No, and I love that we did a Marvel DC thing there, but both games prior to the Marvel one coming out, I also remember reading reviews that the DC was the best variation of it.
Cool.
Subject to obviously your perspective, I think when it comes down to it, though, that was one of the reviews. But yeah, Love Letter, fantastic choice.
And the good thing about Love Letter, just to add one more here, is it also comes in Christmas flavor. So we play this one specifically at Christmas time because it's all about letters to Santa. So you got all the characters here: Frosty, the Gingerbread Man, Mrs. Claus. The value 1 card is the Krampus, which is kind of an interesting take on that. But yes, if you want a stocking stuffer with a Christmas game, this is your jam right here.
I love it. So the next one that I have on my list is a favorite of mine and my wife's. A lot of my stocking stuffers that I think about too are often 2 players because I do a lot of 2-player games. And it's a little bit of a game called King Domino Duel. You may have heard of King Domino. King Domino, fantastic game. Takes up a little bit more space on your table. Not a ton, but a little bit more space. But King Domino Duel comes in a box about this size. It's a magnetic hinge on this box. And inside this box, instead of, dominoes, you have dice. Now, the dice have all these different symbols that you're trying to match to a player board. And these player boards look a little something like this. Now, the player boards, you're trying to build a field of similar iconography, all connected to each other to get multipliers. Interesting thing about this game is if you have a field of a certain iconography, but you don't have an X in it, you're not actually getting any points. So you're trying to strategically, when you play this game, get all the right die in your favor, and in terms of picking it. But what's great about this, Anthony, is that the first person who rolls gets pick of the first die.
Mm-hmm.
The next person gets 2 die, and then the last die that remains.
I really like that mechanism in games.
Yeah, and it's cool because as you're doing this, the back of this, by the way, has a sheet that you're going to put on the table that that literally has you checking off things to get special powers. And these special powers that you're trying to get will allow you to do things like potentially if you roll, immediately pick your 2. Those sort of things, that these extra little bonuses. This game, let me tell you, I picked this up at PAX Unplugged in 2019. This game gets a ton of plays. It gets played more than King Domino. And I love King Domino, but this just gets to the table easy. It's a small box, it's perfect fit for a stocking, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of fun. 2-player game. Again, King Domino Duel, so it's going to be 2-player. But it's great fun. I highly recommend it. If you never played King Domino, don't worry. You can pick this up, no problem.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's we have that on the shelf as well. There's a funny story about that game actually. Lauren and I both sort of almost bought that for each other without the other person knowing. It worked out some weird way where she didn't get hers or whatever, and I got it, but we picked it up at PAX Unplugged. I don't mean bought it. I mean, we literally picked it up at PAX Unplugged. And that's when the whole story kind of came out, that we were both looking at it for each other. Because I didn't really hear a lot of fanfare when this game came out. I kind of didn't even know about it until I saw it at PAX, to be honest. But we love Queen Domino. And yeah, that roll and write, I love that mechanism where you take and then the other person takes 2. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Love that game. All right, so speaking of 2-player only games, I feel your pain on that, especially nowadays. It usually is just the 2 of us, but you can do some pretty cool things over the internet these days. But anyway, a 2-player game here, another little card game. It's called Tides of Time. Have you ever played this, Chris?
I have seen it, never played it. It is on my want to play list.
It's weird because it's a 2-player drafting game. So if you're not familiar with drafting, basically you start with a hand of cards, you choose one that you want to keep, and then you pass the rest to the other player, and they're doing the same thing. So you're going to receive a new hand of cards, do the same thing, put one face down, and then switch. You go back and forth, so you get 5 new cards. And this one basically just scores it all like sort of different ways where, let me just show you a couple quick cards here. So for example, they're all like different suits. So this one is this pink hand suit. So it counts as one of those, but this is how it would score for you, getting each crown that you get. So you want to keep that in mind when you're passing the cards, right? If you see that your opponent put out something that gets them points from crowns, you might think twice about passing crown cards their way, even if it might not be that beneficial to you. I like this game a lot because it's always, when Lauren and I play, not one of us always wins this game. It's usually pretty 50-50. And the neat thing about this, it also has another version, which we own as well, that we like to play, I guess, during spooky Halloween time, and that's Tides of Madness. Same concept, but it takes place with the Cthulhu mythos artwork on it, and basically works the same way, except there's some madness tokens involved. It makes it a little harder to get points, actually. So 2 versions of that. Tides of Time, highly recommend it. Another fast game. You're done in like 10 minutes.
Well, speaking of fast games, one of the games I have can be very fast. It can take a little bit longer, but you're usually not playing more than 15 to 20 minutes with this one. For those who are not familiar, the game I'm about to talk about uses a mechanism, which really is, it's just trick taking. And where you're trying to take certain cards, but you don't always want to win. Sometimes you want to lose, which is a really interesting kind of gameplay. I almost chose, by the way, Fox in the Forest, which is another 2-player game. It is not on this list. but I almost chose it, which is also a trick taking. But it's The Crew. The Crew. This game, this is probably as big of a size box as I was willing to go for stocking stuffer, just to give you an idea. We're talking about this big. So it's gonna fit. It's gonna fit. But The Crew, the neat thing, and the reason I do it, talk about this, is that I have it out, is it has a log book. What you see on the back, this is the rule book, but if I flip it over, it's a log book. There's, I believe, and I'm just going to double check this, 50 missions in here.
Oh, wow.
So you're going through a story, and every time you fail, you have to make a mark in there of how long it took us this long to do it. And the first page in the book, by the way, just so you know, has enter your crew here. And you're actually able to track, so you can run this multiple times with different sets of people. This isn't like a one and done. So I like to stress that. This has an expansion coming out, from my understanding, too. A really fun game. And again, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, so I won't tell you what some of the missions I've done have, but such a fun game. And you can teach it to anyone. It takes, I'd say, trick taking, when you first teach someone trick taking, probably takes 2 or 3 turns for them to kind of grasp the concept of how it works. But once you learn one trick taking game, I mean, you can play them all. And that's what the great thing about trick taking games is. So, my choice for a great stocking stuffer, The Crew. This is an award-winning game, by the way. I should note this.
Yes, definitely on my to play list. I've heard only good things about it. So I definitely would want to try that at some point. So what are we on here? Number 4, right?
Yeah, we have both done 3. We got a little double love letter. That's about our only
double love letter, right? Yeah. So I've got a push your luck dice game called Martian Dice. Now, this game will sort of satisfy kind of the Yahtzee itch, I guess, in that you can roll multiple times if you don't like what you got at first. To an extent, you do have to stop. But basically, what you're doing in this game is you're rolling a bunch of dice, and all the dice have a tank on them, which you have to keep. So all tanks you roll, you have to keep. It also has these death rays. So you're the Martians in this game. The death rays you want to keep because they cancel out the tanks. So you want to try and have as many of these as there are tanks. In addition to that, there are 3 types of Earthlings that you're trying to abduct in this game. There are humans. There's also cows, of course. We know aliens love cows. I don't know why. And chickens. So you roll all the dice, and then you have to keep all the tanks, and then you choose one other thing to keep, either death rays or one of those people or the animals. The catch is you can't keep that thing again. So let's say you roll the dice a second time, and you get more humans, but you already kept humans, you can't keep them again. It's push your luck because there's going to be a point where you have too many tanks, and it often happens to me. And I'm like, all right, I got 7 dice left. I got plenty of time to get those death rays. And I just get blown away like crazy. So I like it because it's push your luck. It's a goofy theme, but the kids that I taught this to really took to it for that whole, like, I understand the risk in rolling again kind of thing, which is a benefit of this game if you're teaching it to younger folks. It's a little risk management. I mean, it's a little precursor to what gambling is like in real life when you think about it, So there's that. I have a version of this called Zombie Dice as well, which is a little bit different, but they're both really fun, and they will definitely fit in a stocking. If you can't fit any of these games that we're talking about into your stockings, you need a bigger stocking. That's all I'm going to say.
No, it's true. Look, the next game that I have is definitely going to fit in a stocking. I don't want to claim you're going to be able to get this as easy at this point. Some local stores may have it, but this one, there's no excuse for it to not fit in a stocking. Some of you may have heard of, if you're listening to this and you have some idea of the board game industry, there's a Gameland Games does these games called Tiny Epic. And there's a variety of themes. I just actually the other day played Tiny Epic Dinosaurs, which is now my favorite of the Tiny Epics. But one of my favorites, and my favorite before that, was Tiny Epic Galaxies. But what if we could get smaller than tiny? We could go to Ultra Tiny Epic Galaxies.
My Lord. Oh, boy.
So I got to tell you, this game is stellar. When you talk about it, you have a board in here. Believe it or not, this is your board. It's a small card. right? And there's a solo version. So if you're a solo player, you got a game too. And the dice, I kid you not, you're going to have pieces you're using in the game. And you can't even see this. It's so tiny. I'm going to hold it. This is the size of one of a little dice.
That's absurd.
But you are trying to go around and you're using resources and you're collecting resources and you're collecting these galaxies. But the neat thing about these galaxies is you can put your spaceships on the galaxies to get an immediate action, or you can try to go into kind of a cycle to go eventually take that galaxy, and then you have that ability therefore from that point forward.
Okay.
So you have a lot of options with this game. And the neat thing again with it is you have limited resources. So you do have to consider the fact that you're rolling dice to get those resources. Is it energy? Is it diplomacy? The fact that this fits in this box means it goes with me everywhere. Not. It is in my backpack. And it is the only downside of this game, I will just say, is there's a fantastic expansion to Tiny Epic Galaxies that there's no Ultra Tiny Epic Galaxy expansion. So, but that I could just say this plays fantastic. I didn't have faith too much when I bought it, but it was cheap, and I was blown away by just how well it works. So
you also have the regular size version of that game?
I don't. I just have played it. So I bought this instead because
are they the same gameplay wise?
Same gameplay wise, exactly the same.
So they were just like, we want to see if we can make a smaller game.
They basically said we want to go even smaller.
What if they made it even smaller than that? Would you buy that one?
No.
Okay. I would love to play that one. I'd love to try the dinosaur one. I've only played the I think Tiny Epic Kingdoms was the first one in the series, right?
I believe that is. It's definitely. I think that's the first because there's that, and then there's Westerns at some point, which I haven't played.
Right. Yeah, I actually used to own Tiny Epic Kingdoms. It just never got played. I couldn't get anybody into it, and at some point I ended up trading it away. But they've come a long way since then, so I would definitely want to try out those versions you got over there. All right, so last pick here. This is a really popular genre these days. Well, you talked about the roll and write game already when you talked about King Domino Duel. So this is a very similar concept. This is a flip and write game where you flip a card over and then cross off something somewhere. This game is called Silver and Gold.
Yep.
We did buy this at PAX Unplugged last year. We played it for like 5 minutes and we were like, yep, this is one that we're going to buy. The cool thing about this is that you're actually writing. So all these cards that come in the game with these little maps on them, you're writing on these cards with the dry erase marker that comes with the game, which is pretty cool. And you're also doing that on your score pad here. And it's so simple. You're going to have a couple of these maps in front of you that you're trying to fill out, and you'll get different bonuses for these little icons. You don't have to worry about that right now. But basically all you do in the game, and it's another one that I sleeved because you do a lot of shuffling with these are all these little sort of Tetris style shapes here. So you flip one of these and everyone has to draw it or cross that shape out in boxes on their particular map card that they have in front of them. When you finish one, you get it put aside, you get points for it. There's even bonuses. Like this one is going to get you 10 points, but also going to give you 2 points for every other orange one that you happen to have. I like this game because it's a flip and write. It's super easy to teach. I taught this to my parents, which is sometimes a bit of a struggle, and they picked it up really, really fast, and it's just really accessible. And again, dry erase on the cards is just so nice. There's like no mess. It's awesome.
And the great thing about this game, which I also picked up at PAX Unplugged after playing it. So clearly we both had the same mindset when we played that. King Domino, which I mentioned earlier, I actually bought and gave as a Christmas present. Ironic, as we're discussing it here today. But this one I bought, and I just said, I want this, I need this, and we're going to go play this as soon as I get home. And the cool thing to me about this game is it does come with that dry erase from the beginning. A lot of these, I mean, I showed you King Domino earlier. I actually made that a dry erase. Like this one comes that way, which is not standard. So this was just really well done. Pandasaurus Games, I believe, with that one. Is that Is that who's
I
buying that
don't
one?
think this is Pandasaurus, is it? Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It has their old logo on there.
Yes.
It's an
And
older
I'll
one.
note if your local shop doesn't have it, I know Target sells this too. I mean, it's
Yeah, I think this is pretty available nowadays. I'm surprised they don't have an expansion for this game yet, to be honest, because this type of game, all you really need to do is add like couple more cards with maybe like one more new type of icon or something on the
it's
maps.
not much.
Yeah, this is a great game.
Well, speaking of great games, I'd like to close out with one that I've loved, which is, you again talk about easy to get in your bag. This is Hive. It's in this bag now. Hive comes in a lot of formats. I should note. I have the pocket version of Hive, but even the full size version of Hive is not large.
So you have the ultra tiny epic version of Hive?
Yes, I do. But what's great about this is, and I really love this for a few reasons. One, you've got these nice chunky pieces, right? Really fun to play with. I mean, you can roll them around. It's really fun to just.
It has a domino type feel to it. Those tokens.
They do. But the thing that's great about this game is you're actually doing strategy from the get-go. This is in the same category where when people tell me, well, I want to play a game that's chess-like, and I'm talking about Onitama, I'm talking about some of these other games, Hive comes up because you are constantly trying to counter what your opponent is doing. The idea behind this game is essentially there's one piece that you need to surround. You want to surround your opponent's hive, essentially. But the thing about this game is you can never break up the hive, which means if a piece is locked in the middle between two areas that connects everything, you can't move it. So you can get people trapped. The abilities are cool in the game. You've got something like a beetle that can climb over and climb above. You've got an ant that just can go along the outside. So a lot of different abilities that changes the game every single time. Some would argue, well, yeah, you can learn your way around the game and figure out ways to win. But I will say you have to play the game a lot.
Yeah, it would be like chess. You'd have to like devote your life to it basically to be. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I'm sure there's people that are really, really good at that game. I've only played it once myself, but I really did enjoy it, and I would play it again very, very soon.
Yeah, and again, the biggest thing I have to say is this is it. This is a very worn bag. There's actually like strands coming off of it. So, and I love this game. It's with me all the time. Highly recommend it. And again, if you like strategy and you like that chess-like, it's 2-player. I should note that officially it is a 2-player game. But if you like that kind of back and forth and really trying to figure out what your opponent's going to do next, and it gets you to a tight spot, by the way, where sometimes you just have to defend and you really risk losing because by moving your piece away from offense to defense, sometimes it's hard to kind of bounce back and recover. Sure. So it's a fun game. I will add an honorable mention, by the way, just because I think it's worthwhile. Quicks is a great quick one that you can find. Really simple. Roll some dice, fill in some stuff on a card, on a paper, and the person who rolled can potentially use two sets of numbers instead of one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really TLDR explanation, but you can teach this to anyone. And it's a variation on dice gaming, and it's a lot of fun. It is an award winner as well. This one's the a Mensa Select winner. So
yeah, we get that one to the table a lot. That used to travel with us a lot in the before times to the bar pretty often because it's super easy to take with you. And another one that I taught my parents that they picked up pretty quickly. So I need to do an honorable mention, which I kind of forgot about, but I'm gonna look around real quick and find one.
I just threw that out there. So, and I should tell everybody that when it came down to this, we both, put together our list, but we did not in any way try to coordinate them. So, I will just note the honorable mention I'm throwing at you last minute. So I'm excited to see what you come
up. All right. So I think this will fit in most standard sized stockings. It's pushing the limit a little bit, I think, but I think it's about the size of your crew box, maybe a little bit bigger. This is called Walking in Burano. This is another just sort of small card game. It's super pretty. Basically, you're just trying to complete different layers of these buildings that come in different colors. And there's all these different visitors. So there's always a middle section of the building and a roof section. And I'm not lucky enough to find what I need, but you get the drift. There's a bottom one as well. Anyway, real pretty on the board, on the table rather. Lots of cool colors and surprisingly strategic for just really a bunch of little cards. If you like, this type of architecture style, I would say apparently this is a very common thing in some European cities. These colorful buildings. Copenhagen is another game that's kind of like that. But yeah, check this one out. Another one that we picked up, I believe, after PAX Unplugged. So there you go.
And I think it's fair to say you and I are both missing PAX Unplugged this year. I certainly hope that you and I can be there and do something next year. Fingers are crossed.
Yeah, well, more fun in 2021 is what I'm going by. It's my tagline now.
Well, definitely more fun in 2021. But before 2021 ends, if you've enjoyed this, I know that Anthony and I are going to plan on doing our favorite. I don't know if we finalized the number, but our favorite games played in. I think it was 20. Because
our favorite something in
yeah,
something.
It was our favorite. We're going to do our favorite games. Our 20 favorite games played in 2020. That's what it was.
There you go. 20 and 20. Gotcha.
I just want to clarify again. This ain't going to be a top 20 games of 2020.
No.
This is not that.
So, someone asked me if I could put together a top 10 list of games that I played from 2020, and I kind of chuckled and I was like, "Let me check my list." 3. So no, not 20 games in 2020 that came out in 2020. Not coming from me. No way.
Yeah.
But plenty of games played for sure.
Yeah, and so we'll be coming up with that. Please, please stay tuned. Subscribe to the YouTube channel where this will be located. I'll make sure if you are listening via Twitter or Facebook, I drop the link there, and we'll definitely be coming back with that. So I want to thank you all for joining this evening. Anthony, thanks for chatting with me, and I look forward to talking about those games, those not top 20, but our favorite games played in 2020. And we'll see all of you very soon.